Welcome to the Cubs Baseball Channel. A little viewer comment right out of the gate. Chicago White Sox fans have entered the chat, and they're saying, Chuck, you're not dancing this morning. Actually, I am slightly playing the air guitar because the Chicago Cubs are doing just fine. The Milwaukee Brewers lose. The Cincinnati Reds lose. So in terms of making up division ground, you could have made up some division ground, but things could be a lot worse. The Chicago Cubs are in a standstill right now as compared to yesterday. Also, more good news, a little personal plug. My wife, Kylan Mills, a Chicago native, huge Cubs fan, hosted her first Oakland A's pre- and post-game show yesterday. So that's the only Oakland A's talk we're getting into. But I do have to give a shout-out to my wife. Very proud husband here, Chicago native. So maybe someone watching is like, hey, it's Kylan Mills. I know her. Mick Gillespie's my partner. We are closing in on 1,000. By the time you watch this show, we may be giving out that Ryan Sandberg autograph baseball. Mick, how we doing today? There's energy. It's all right. A loss, it happens.
Yeah, look, like and subscribe. You guys have made this thing happen, and it's going to happen today, and we're just going to keep on rolling. But, yeah, we got the Rhino ball, and somebody's going to win that, and we just can't thank you guys enough for making the channel what it is. All right, let's get right into it. First off, I love the viewers, and I love, look, even White Sox people. If they want to jump on here and talk smack, then do that, because the Sox did beat the Cubs yesterday 5-3. You got some comments. One person said they were with you until you said you wanted a Budweiser in the stands. I don't know why they don't like the King of Beers. Harry Carey was a Cubs fan and a Bud man. I know things have changed since then. But look, the second thing is, and you brought it up right away, Sox fans like, you're not going to be dancing today. The Sox won. They did. They beat the Cubs 5-3. And I'm tipping my cap. Where's this been all year? All I've seen is Tim Anderson get knocked up out. They have been terrible. This Sox team's been awful. This was the best game of the season, according to Len Casper, my buddy. I was listening to the game last night. Where has this been for them? I had a scout that's been in baseball for 30 years tell me that he was scouting them and was embarrassed from the lack of effort. So I get it. Playing the Cubs tonight is your World Series, and you need to win those games, because after that, it'll probably be right back into the tank again where this team and organization has been. But last night, Luis Roberts' home run was clutch. The pitching was really good. They played great defense. There was a lot of intensity. It felt like a playoff game at Wrigley, but I would expect that when the Cubs and the Sox get together. The problem with the Sox is that they've got their World Series tonight, and then it's back to last place again.
Yeah, and they're trying to get under my skin right now, throwing some comments, saying I won't dance, and I'll absolutely dance, because it's a beautiful day in Chicagoland today. Cubbies are at home. They could win the season series 3-1 if they just take the game against the White Sox tonight. And we thought they'd be sending Marcus Stroman to the hill, and instead we're worried that maybe it could be an oblique injury. There's definitely a lot of vagueness in the air right now. I was listening to the radio station today and said, we'll know more about Marcus in 2-3 days. But as of right now, it sounds like they're not committing to him 100% being back. It was we'll see what happens in the future with him. It could be something to where he's back next week throwing another bullpen, or we'll see. So who knows with Marcus Stroman right now?
I thought it was that his hip was tight again. That's what he's been on the IL with.
They were saying rib on the radio. They were saying rib.
It could be that. Yeah, I mean, look, there could be a lot of things. I mean, the Cubs aren't really going to tip their hand, I guess, and except just to say that he's not available tonight. We expected him, after the success that he's had the last few bullpens, to be the starter, right? And so the information started to trickle out that he's not pitching tonight. That hurts the Cubs. We were hoping to have the Marcus Stroman from the beginning of the season. Talked about it yesterday, and I'm going to reiterate it. The Cubs do not have a lot of starting pitching depth. They have not developed a lot of starting pitching in the minor leagues. And so they're at a point right now where Ben Brown would have been the guy that would have been next up. He was who they got from the Phillies last year for David Robertson, and he's been excellent in the minor leagues, but he's on the IL. There's not a lot of other options other than what I'm expecting tonight to be Javier Assad to slide into that spot again. And he's the extent of their depth. They get past him, and I guess you go back to Smiley, who has struggled mightily, a lot like Stroman before he went on the IL.
All right, so let's go with Javier Assad, who's 2-2 with a 3.12 ERA, coming off his best start of his career, no doubt about it. 7 innings of big-time quality baseball, and he goes up against the Zen master himself, Mike Clevinger. I don't know anything about Mike Clevinger, don't know him personally. If he's watching the show, he can hop into the comments, but there's no doubt about it that guy throws in a chaw every once in a while, and if he's cutting back on the chaw, then he's throwing in a Zen. I'm just telling you. Clevinger's 5-5 with a 3.55 ERA, was on my fantasy at points this year, which means that I have the scouting report, and Clevinger, he's been off and on the IL. He's been pretty good when he's pitched this year, and has been a pretty good pitcher throughout his career.
Yeah, last night you look at how the game went down, got the home run early to get things going. Oh, and did you predict?
I'm going with Ian Happ, who has 3 homers already in the month of August. 10 of his 13 home runs are against right-handers, which Tuki Toussaint is. I'm getting plus 600 odds that Ian Happ leaves the yard today. And did you predict Kyle Hendricks over 2.5 runs and under 18 and a half outs, which it was under? He got the 18. So the only one you got wrong was the strikeouts. You weren't really close on the strikouts. It was
I thought he'd have more. Right. I thought he'd have more strikeouts, but the White Sox played a really good game yesterday. That was maybe their best game of the season. We haven't seen that White Sox team. So we'll find out who they are tonight, still trying to win the World Series in the Windy City, right? So Cubs win tonight, they still win the season series against the Sox, which is fine. But these are really important games for the Cubs. So turning the ball over to who we think is going to be Javier Assad. It's officially listed as TBA, but it's got to be Assad. So let's just throw that out there. Assad was excellent against Toronto, and I'm hoping that he'll be able to continue it. But the intensity of this matchup is huge. Ian Happ had the home run, but they were able to take out Dansby Swanson and Cody Bellinger last night, the 2 horses that the Cubs have in their lineup. And things were really quiet. Also, Seiya Suzuki, another good game. He had a home run in the game. Maybe he's starting to figure it out, or it could just be the competition with Mike Tauchman that has these guys really forcing themselves to play their best baseball. Or it could be that they're seeing what's going on with Hollywood Pete Crow Armstrong, and now AAA Iowa. We're going to talk more about that later on. But you're starting to see some of these guys in the minor leagues pushing, and the Cubs are going to have to make some decisions here. They went in to get to the playoffs. They got to start winning these games because they're in the stretch run. And so tonight at Wrigley at 7:05, a huge game as far as where the Cubs are and where they want to be.
Let's go back to Javier Assad real quick, because I have his props up, and I think some of the people are interested in hearing what Vegas thinks he's doing tonight in terms of how long he's going to last, how many strikeouts, and how many earned runs he's going to give up. His potential spam has tried to reach out to me for the last 5 minutes. I'm thinking that the potential spam at this point may be telling me that my house is on fire and I need to get out of here. I don't know, but the show rolls on. That's what we do on a taped to live show. So with that being said, Javier Assad, his outs tonight is set at 15.5, meaning Vegas thinks he's going 5 innings. If he goes 5 1/3, you win there. You taking the over at minus 127, the under at minus 115.
I'm going to take the over. I think he's going to have a good game.
Okay, so you think he goes over. I would imagine that means he's going under in his runs. It's set at 2.5. The better odds is the under.
That's a good one. I'm going to take the over.
You're going to take the over at minus 130 there, which is better than the under, the minus 105. And then his strikeouts set at 3.5. It's at minus 112. It's got a grade A on the Action Network for those of you that follow that. So it's considered a slam dunk bet that he goes under 3.5 strikeouts. Are you fading that slam dunk and saying maybe he racks up some Ks?
They made a lot of contact yesterday. Not so much today. They're not going to like trying to hit his biting slider. Well, let's talk about the standings, like where we are right now. You look at yesterday, a tough loss to the Sox, and the Brewers were out on the West Coast. They were beaten by the Dodgers. The Reds lost to Cleveland, which you said yesterday was going to be an issue for the Reds for whatever reason. Cleveland's kind of had their number. So when you pull up the latest standings, the Cubs are they didn't really lose any ground yesterday. As a matter of fact, they didn't lose any ground anywhere. I mean, they could have made up ground yesterday.
Giants won. That's one that I guess hurts.
Well, let's start with the division. They're 3.5 games back of Cincinnati. Of Milwaukee, and tied with Cincinnati. Although they have the percentage point lead on the Reds, it's still a long way to go right now. But that's when you look at the big picture. This is where you feel like the Cubs need to make up some ground because the other teams are having, well, particularly the Brewers, the toughest part of their schedule.
Yeah, so we mentioned yesterday that the schedule, if you're not in tune with it, it's the 2 against the White Sox, game 2 tonight, Wrigley Field, 7:05 Central Time. Then it's 4 against the Kansas City Royals with some day games sprinkled in there. It's been a minute, it feels like, since we've gotten some day games, and we'll get one against the lowly Royals. Then it's the not as bad Detroit Tigers, but the Tigers still stink. Then it's the Pittsburgh Pirates, who were the leaders of the pack after the first turn as they were whipping the horses. Then since then, the wheels of Ben-Hur's chariot have been flying everywhere, scattering all across the tracks. The Pittsburgh Pirates stink once again. They've stunk just about my entire lifetime, or at this point, since they've gotten rid of Bonds. They had a pocket. They did nothing with it. Sorry about it, Pittsburgh. Better luck next year, and it's probably not going to go better next year. So, yeah, that's your schedule right there. Over the next 12 leading into Milwaukee, and Milwaukee's got Texas, and they have the Dodgers, they have the Twins, and then the Padres, who aren't good, but at the same time are at least more scary than 4 with the Pittsburgh Pirates.
Well, there's your wild card. You said the Giants won. They did. The Marlins lost. The Cubs lost. The Reds lost. Arizona won. I still don't think Arizona's going to get in this mix. But if you were going to lose a game, I guess that's the night to lose it because, it's not like everyone else won. So just kind of the way things worked out.
Reds and Guardians tonight. I'm guessing you're thinking that the Reds will probably get the second game of the series after falling 3-0 yesterday.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I think the Reds have an issue with pitching, but the Guardians aren't very good either. So, yeah, I mean, just one of those games that we'll keep an eye on. I'm not as confident in Cleveland as I am this one right here. The Dodgers are always tough at home. They're starting to play really, really good baseball. They're taking over the division. They just smothered Milwaukee's bats last night.
All right, let's get to the future. We're on the present, and I guess we are talking about the future when it comes to standings. That aligns directly with the future, but more so in a player sense. The number 1 prospect. Here's a plug that if you haven't seen our exclusive one-on-one, I shouldn't say ours. I was in California sleeping. Nick was calling me, hey, studio's fired up. We're ready to go, Chuck. I was getting some sleep. I guess I didn't hear the vibration, but I got up for the regular show that day, so we're good. But we had Pete Crow Armstrong on. It was about a 19-minute interview, a lot of good stuff. Talked about growing up a Cubs fan, and as talked about how he could help the Cubs this year were he to get called up, and the chances of him getting called up seem to get more and more likely for the Cubs because Crow Armstrong, Peta, a long one yesterday, a walk-off.
Yeah, walk-off home run for the Iowa Cubs. He just has this knack for big moments. Whether it's running the bases, he was a Gold Glove winner in the minor leagues last year. Who knows? Maybe he'll win it again this year. He's putting the Cubs in a spot where they've got to decide if they want that spark for this year's team. And, I was kind of a proponent of him staying in the minor leagues, right, when he was in AA. But if you moved him to AAA, towards the middle end of the season, you're taking the bats away and maybe center field away from Alexander Canario, who's another center fielder, not really similar to Pete Crow Armstrong, but another guy that would play the same position. There's got to be a reason why, right? Well, I'm thinking that the reason is you're saying that this year matters. You want to get into the postseason. Why would you not want to bring up a guy who can make an immediate impact? He's going to make an immediate impact, whether it's running the bases, whether it's playing Gold Glove defense, maybe someone you bring into the game late, maybe he's a pinch runner, and the fact that he's got this ability to play big in the clutch. Check out the video that we posted. He had a 16-pitch at bat grand slam this year against Birmingham. He talked about that. He He scored from second base on a bases loaded ground out. Somebody got 2 RBIs on a fielder's choice. That never happens. And he just does stuff like that constantly. But what I think he would provide this Cubs team this year, watching them last night and how flat they looked for a while in that game, is just somebody to just light that fire, almost like Ellie De La Cruz did in the middle of the season for the Cincinnati Reds. Pete Crow Armstrong has that same ability. Look, does he have some things that he needs to work on? Sure. I guess that they would want him to walk some more. I think they want him to hit the ball to the right side of the field, to the left side of the field instead of pulling it. But at the same time, if you're winning this year, he's a guy that can help you do that.
And I compare it to the Kyle Schwarber situation when you bring him up and right away his bat's hot out of the gate because the big league pitchers haven't seen him yet. They haven't had a lot of chances. So Pete Crow Armstrong and it was Casey Schmidt for the Giants this year. And I could think of Ellie De La Cruz, Matt McClain for the Reds. Like when you're first coming up in the bigs, those first couple weeks are typically your numbers are better than 5-6 weeks down the road because you're just so fresh and they haven't had the chance to really see you yet.
Right. They haven't made an adjustment to what you bring to the table. I don't know that there's going to be an adjustment to his ability to run the bases, though. And I'm going to tell you this right now. He's a better base runner than anyone the Cubs have on their roster. I'm talking big leagues. I'm talking AAA, AA, single A, in Dominican League in Arizona. He's the best base runner of all of them. So in these nip and tuck games where you need a stolen base, where Nico Horner got thrown out trying to steal late in the game yesterday, maybe Pete Crow Armstrong's a guy. And I'm not saying to replace Nico, but I'm just saying maybe he's a guy that you throw out there and he can steal a base for you. He's done that a lot. And is he the best, stolen base threat that the Cubs have? No, but he's just a great base runner. He's got a lot of speed and he's got this ability to read the ball, and read the situation unlike anybody I've ever seen. And he's hungry to score. He's like Pete Rose in the fact that the guy is always looking for the next base, the next hit. He plays with a passion that I think the Cubs could really use in the major leagues. I don't know what's going to happen over this stretch. And I'm not saying that they're going to call him up today or tomorrow. If someone gets hurt, that's a good possibility. I also think when you get to the September call-ups, that's a possibility. I know that they don't want to start his clock probably, but at the same time, you're all in on winning. And half of the fan base isn't buying into David Ross as manager. I'm just going to tell you that. I bought in. I believe that he's a good manager. But there's a lot of people that are smart that disagree with me. They don't like the way that he matches up. They don't like the way that he uses the bullpen. They don't like a lot of things about what he does. And that position of manager, it happens. And I can go back to, Joe Madden and Don Zimmer and, Jim Riggleman. I mean, I've been around this Cubs team for a long time. It's just par for the course. And so for him to win over the Cubs fan base, the Cubs need to make the playoffs. They also missed an opportunity to really strengthen the organization by not making trades at the deadline where they were where they were selling instead of buying. Well, I'm fine with that. I think we're all fine with that, but you got to make the playoffs. This is a really important stretch. Even if you don't win the World Series, the experience of getting there is going to help you down the line. We learned that from Theo Epstein, and he was exactly right. He saw that in Boston, and then he brought that same mentality to the Cubs. So at the end of the day, you got to get there. And right now, if the season ends, the Cubs are close, but they're not in.
Cubs baseball channel. Once we get to 1K, it's that Ryan Sandberg autograph baseball. We're having a party, the whole shebang. Mick, why don't you get us out with some music? White Sox fans, you're welcome. You're welcome to keep coming after me. I got the comments right here. I don't care about the comments. This is Cubs baseball. We're dancing every day of the week, except when I'm in California with my fake tree. Then we don't have the energy. I got to do these shows really early. But here in Chicago, with the brick behind me, Mick, this is intense music, and I want some real music moving forward. I don't care about a damn copyright. What are they doing? What are they going to do? They going to come take my plastic $2 brick from Sheehan? Is that what they're going to do? What are they going to take from us? We're getting some 50 Cent next time to open up the show. Mick Gillespie, That's energy. Thank you, everyone, for hanging out with us. 1,000. We'll see you soon.